Democrat state lawmakers who fled Texas to avoid a vote on redistricting will likely miss the deadline to return home in time for a roll call at the top of the hour. All of this, of course, as Republicans step up the pressure on rogue lawmakers now working to enforce arrest warrants in blue states where they are hiding out. Let's bring in Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, welcome to you.
Hey, good to see you again.
What do we need to know about this situation right now, considering there are still Democrats refusing to return?
So listen, the clock is ticking on the remainder of the session. As we speak right now, we have Texas law enforcement scouring the state to find out if there's any Democrat in the state of Texas that can be taken to the Capitol. Second, we are working with law enforcement and taking other actions in other parts of the country to see if we can uncover any Democrat who can be brought back to the state. To put that in context, we have what's called a quorum break. In order for us to be able to pass legislation, it requires a quorum or 2/3 of the Texas House membership to show up. There are 88 Republicans, and we need 100 votes to meet quorum. So we're looking for 12 Democrats to make sure we're going to be able to vote on these maps, as well as to address very important things such as helping the flood victims in Central Texas. We will either find these missing Democrats over the course of this week and have votes on all these very important matters, or at the end of this week, this current 30-day special session will be gabbled out. And the nanosecond after that happens, I'm going to be calling another special session, and we're going to be making sure that any Democrat who surfaces in the state of Texas in that intervening time is going to be apprehended by the Texas Department of Public Safety and taken to the Texas Capitol and held there to make sure that we are able to meet quorum.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of business to be done there in the state legislature, but this really centers around the issue of redistricting. Democrats are complaining loudly and long about that, yet they do the same thing in blue states across the country. In fact, in Illinois, Princeton University gave the government of Illinois an F for partisan fairness in its redistricting plans. Yet J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, said this when queried about it on NBC yesterday. Listen here.
You talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now.
So Governor Pritzker there is suggesting that it's a distraction to call the Democrats on their double standard when it comes to redistricting. What do you say?
Yeah, well, of course, the last thing he wants to hear is that he's a hypocrite, which is exactly what it is. One thing that the Texas redistricting effort has exposed is how all of these large blue states have gerrymandered their states so dramatically. Look at California, look at Illinois, look at Massachusetts, look at New York. They have the worst examples of gerrymandering. Texas is not like that. Then point two, what he said, listen, what Texas is doing is 100% legal. Listen, we have redistricted or redrawn the congressional lines in the middle of a decade process before. There's nothing illegal at all about what we're doing. It's always been upheld as perfectly constitutional. We are following the Voting Rights Act. All we are doing is, in the aftermath of a legal decision last year by the Federal Court of Appeals, we now are no longer required to have what are called coalition districts, and we're able to draw lines that are consistent with voters' preferences. What we found in the aftermath of the Trump election is that large majorities of Hispanic and black voters actually want to support Republicans. 4 of the 5 seats we are adding are Hispanic majority seats that happen to vote Republican. Democrats are really upset about the fact is that their base voters, Hispanics and Democrats, are fleeing Democrats and coming to Republicans because Hispanics dislike the leftist progressive policies of the Democrats.
Okay. Well, the governor of this state, Texas, New York, has a message for you, the governor of Texas. Kathy Hochul said this on Fox News Sunday. Listen here, Governor.
Just Texas, knock it off, we'll knock it off, and let's get back to governing. But you want to play these games? We're not going to sit on the sidelines. We're New Yorkers. We fight back.
She says you're playing games and to knock it off. How do you respond?
Well, she's showing up. Yeah, she's showing up to a gunfight without any bullets. She acts like she can take some action. It requires a constitutional amendment in New York, and they're incapable of doing anything right now. what Texas is doing, we are ensuring that the people of our state are going to be represented by members of Congress that share their values, as opposed to people who are wanting open borders, people who want men and women's sports, people who fight back against our law enforcement officers. We are not going to be bound by these leftist ideologues in the United States Congress. Right here in the state of Texas, we're going to draw lines that are fully representative of the people of our state.
So, as Kathy Hochul says that, Governor Gavin Newsom of the state of California is saying something very similar, writing this on X. Donald Trump, if you will not stand down, California will be forced to lead an effort to redraw our maps to offset the rigging of maps in red states. If the other states call off their redistricting efforts, we will do the same, and American democracy will be the better for it. But as you pointed out yesterday, and you pointed out there with the state of New York, the process in Texas is much different than it is in California. You can't just willy-nilly rewrite things in the Golden State.
So for one, the process is different because we have the authority to pass laws to do this, whereas in both California and New York, it requires a constitutional amendment. But for another, listen, both New York and California are so gerrymandered, they don't have any more seats that can be picked up. But I'll tell you this, if California thinks they're going to move their needle to the extreme and eliminate 5 Republican members of the United States Congress there, Texas is not going to do 5. We'll add 10 more Republican seats using the same procedure they're using in California. We have more Democrat seats that can turn into Republican seats than they have Republican seats in California that they can turn into Democrat seats.
Okay, so we've got to leave it there, Governor. 2 o'clock's going to roll around here pretty fast on the East Coast. About 34 minutes from now, Texas roll call will happen. Will a quorum be met?
We're going to find out. We have law enforcement working across the streets to identify and bring to the Capitol any Democrat in the state of Texas. We'll see how many show up.
All right. We'll be watching for that, Governor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Governor.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.